Toronto pledges more money to help festivals boost security in the wake of Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day attack last month. We'll hear more from the mayor.
And King Charles III and Queen Camilla have arrived in Ottawa for their royal tour and to underscore Canada's sovereignty in the midst of annexation threats. We're going to take a look at what message this visit sends to the Trump administration.
And the premier responds to growing opposition to a controversial proposed bill that aims to speed up large mining projects in the north. We'll hear from Doug Ford and critics.
Plus, remember that Loblaw bread price fixing scandal? Well, a judge has now approved a $500 million settlement in the class action. We're going to tell you what this means for some Canadian shoppers.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Sabbath.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks so much for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. Mayor Olivia Chow says the city will increase funding to enhance safety at festivals in our city. It comes after 11 people were killed in a vehicle ramming attack at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day Festival last month.
Let's go live to CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan, who joins us from the Village. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari, Lena, the Village is one of the many spots in the city that hosts celebrations. Pride, of course, is an annual and very popular celebration that is celebrated here in the city. So Councillor Cole was the person responsible for putting this summit together. He told me today that, as Lena just said, he was concerned going forward as a result of the tragedy that took place in Vancouver this past April. So he wanted to mitigate any risk of any mass casualties happening here during any of the large celebrations that we see quite often here in the city of Toronto. So he called this summit. The mayor was there, Councillor Carroll was there, there were community stakeholders, there were emergency responders there, and safety experts. And they discussed proactive plans going forward to mitigate that risk of anything major happening in the city. Now, we heard from the mayor after this summit, and we also spoke with a festival expert who specializes in security apparatuses that help safety zones when it comes to mitigating the chances of people within those safety zones being injured. Here's more from the mayor and from this expert who was invited up here to Toronto from Connecticut by Councillor Cole. Let's listen to both.
And this summit, we learned a lot about best practices on how we could collectively buy insurance together, what are some of the mitigation effects, how we could work with the emergency services, and what kind of things we must do to make sure it's safe, but that all festivals will remain joyous, celebratory, and really celebrate the essence of Toronto.
What we're talking about here is hostile vehicle mitigation, and there are various means of mitigating the threat of a vehicle going into a crowd of people, whether that vehicle is operated by someone who simply loses control or someone who has bad intent. So what we've been talking about is the different means of mitigating the threat of a vehicle going into a crowd. There are things like barriers that will literally lift a vehicle off the ground, take its drive wheels off the ground, and that vehicle will stop.
Now, the mayor, Councillor Cole, and Councillor Carroll all acknowledged the high cost of security when it comes to policing these large festivals. Councillor Cole is hopeful and encouraging those who organize these large events to contact their MPPs and their MPs, because his expectation is that all levels of government should participate when it comes to the cost of putting these very important and very impressive cultural gatherings together. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live from the Village tonight. Steve, thanks so much for this. A suspect sketch has been released in the assault of an elderly woman in Ajax.
OPP sharing this, drawing in connection with the incident on Salem Road. This is on the ramp to the eastbound 401 in late April. So police say an 84-year-old woman was assaulted following a crash, leaving her with life-threatening injuries. The suspect is believed to be between 20 to 35 years old, with long black hair and tattoos on his arms and chest. The police have also released 2 photos of a gray sedan that might have been involved. Anyone who recognizes the suspect in the sketch or the suspect vehicle, you ask to call police.
A teen boy is in hospital after being struck by a vehicle in Mississauga.
It happened in the parking lot of Our Lady of Mount Carmel School on Trelawney Circle near Winston Churchill and Derry Road. A spokesperson for the school says the grade 9 student was hit while riding his bicycle. He was rushed to hospital and then airlifted to a trauma center with serious injuries. The driver did stay on the scene. It's not yet clear if any charges are pending.
Well, northbound lanes on Highway 404 at Wellington are open again after a 2-vehicle collision involving a tractor-trailer this morning.
OPP says 60-year-old man from Cambridge has been charged with careless driving. They say the collision happened when the tractor-trailer crashed into a passenger vehicle that was slowing down due to a police investigation on the shoulder. No one was hurt.
2 people have been seriously injured, one seriously, after a collision near the QEW in Mississauga this morning.
A pickup truck and another vehicle collided in the area of North Service Road and Copper Road. This was around 6:45. The pickup truck smashed into the sound barrier for the QEW, knocking a portion of it over. Paramedics transported 2 people to hospital, one with serious injuries and another with minor. Well, an investigation into the cause of the crash, that is ongoing.
And York police took more than a dozen guns and a large quantity of fentanyl off the streets in a months-long investigation dubbed Project Madruga.
And the operation focuses on a drug trafficking ring running out of Georgina. 4 men and 2 women were arrested following a series of search warrants. Police seized 1,400 grams of raw fentanyl, as well as cocaine, meth, illicit cannabis, and cash, as well as a variety of firearms.
On April 16th, we executed 5 residential search warrants and 1 storage unit in York Region and in Toronto. York Regional Police conducted these search warrants with the assistance of Toronto Police and with OPP. On May 8th, we did another search warrant in Aurora. These search warrants resulted in 15 firearms being seized. 7 were handguns, 4 shotguns, 4 rifles. Of those, 8 are restricted firearms, 5 are non-restricted, and 2 are prohibited.
The trafficking of opioids and associated violence in smaller rural communities like Georgina has a devastating impact on the people and the families that live and work there. Be it in a big city or a small town, York Regional Police will not stand for the trafficking of opioids or other illegal drugs anywhere in our region. And we will use all resources at our disposal to investigate drug traffickers, enforce the law to the fullest extent, and bring them to justice.
The accused are facing a combined 53 charges.
Right now it's 5:07. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24 traffic specialist Adjoa Nsiaya-Brock. Good evening, Adj.
Oh, good evening, Bakari and Lena. It has been quite the slow go on most of the major area highways and some brand new problems. You're spotting them now. So this is the westbound lanes of the 401 as you travel in the collectors through Warden. Left lane and shoulder blocked following this stall. Then eastbound on the 401, heaviest from Dixie out to Leslie opens up, slows again as you travel in towards the Durham stretch. Haven't spotted issues on the DVP. It's starting to improve. We did have a minor situation northbound DVP approaching Bayview Bloor in the right lane that cleared. And if your travels take you on the Gardner, just take a look. It's very slow as you head into and out of the downtown core. In North York, crews on scene of a collision blocking lanes on Dufferin right at Finch. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Adjoa, thanks so much. Well, opposition is growing to a Ford government bill aimed at fast-tracking large mining projects in the north. The premier says those against it are radical environmentalists.
CP24's Phil Perkins joins us live from Queen's Park with the latest on Bill 5. Phil.
Hey there, Bakari and Leah. Bill 5 is a proposed bill that, if it goes through, the Ford government hopes that it would speed up large mining projects, particularly in northern Ontario. So how it would work, they would have these so-called special economic zones in parts of northern Ontario that would basically ignore provincial and municipal law and allow them to fast track and get mining quickly. This was a topic not even just through the provincial election, but the federal election as well. The term drill, baby, drill from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was something he mentioned a good amount of times, and suggesting, why is Canada not somewhere like Dubai? We have the minerals, the critical minerals for stuff like digital technology, artificial intelligence, renewable energy in our own backyard. And this has been something that Premier Ford has been speaking on since the first time he made his way into office. Some of the critical minerals that the Ford government is eyeing, particularly in the Ring of Fire, which currently is a swamp. You can't get to it unless it is wintertime and there's ice covering it, or during non-winter seasons you have to fly to it. But some of the minerals include nickel, chromium, palladium, and platinum. Here's what Premier Ford had to say about this bill, as well as Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie about that term that Lena was talking about, Ford referring to people opposed to this as, crazy environmentalists.
Hopefully we're going to get this passed. We have to speed up permitting and get things going, creating more jobs and compete with the rest of the world with our critical minerals.
The Premier thinks anyone could be defined as radical if they have a different opinion or are trying to hold him and his government responsible. All we're calling for is more accountability and more transparency. And we saw that there was none with the decision made to close down the Science Center, to pick Therma as the company that would host the facilities.
The NDP's Sol Mamakwa has said that the Ford government has no understanding of what the treaty rights are. Many First Nations are opposing to this proposed bill. He said that he thinks it's very clear that after conversations with stakeholders that if the bill goes forward, he says that we are going to be idle no more. A lot of reaction from First Nations as well as the Toronto Zoo guys. We'll get more on that coming up next half hour. Back to you.
All right, we'll check in for an update soon. Phil, thanks so much for this. 5:11, 20 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, the King and Queen have arrived in Canada. We're going to go live to the nation's capital next for the latest on the royal visit. Well, King Charles III and Queen Camilla touched down in Ottawa today to begin their first visit to Canada since the King's coronation 2 years ago.
Let's go live to CTV's Abigail Beeman in the nation's capital. Abigail, thanks so much for joining us. The timing of this visit cannot be overstated. It comes as Donald Trump has threatened to annex Canada. Talk more about the symbolism behind this trip.
Hi, well, absolutely heavy on the symbolism. And this is only the third time in Canadian history that a monarch has delivered the speech from the throne. So this was last done in 1977 and 1957 by Queen Elizabeth. And of course, it will be King Charles tomorrow who presents the speech from the throne. So a historic moment, a moment heavy in symbolism, as you point to the trade war with the United States. And there's a few things that political watchers and royal watchers point to in there. First of all, the idea that this will underline Canada's sovereignty, Canada's unique position, and the King's role with our country. But second of all, the point also that Donald Trump is a big fan of the royal family, a fan of the monarch. And we all saw the reaction when the British Prime Minister handed over an unprecedented second state visit invitation for Donald Trump to meet the King, and how well that went over there. So the hope is, the experts tell us, that they believe that Trump will be watching as this unfolds tomorrow. And the idea is that that will underline that Canada is not the 51st state.
And also, Abigail, let's go over sort of the details of the itinerary of this trip. We know it's going to be short. They head back to the UK tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Earlier today, they were at the farmers market before heading to Rideau Hall. Let's talk about access to the public and, the timing of everything.
Sure. So as you say, this is really just a 24-hour, basically a whirlwind trip with a few events open to the public. So I'm here on the grounds of Rideau Hall, where there was a ceremonial tree planting before they went inside, and that was open to the public. There were hundreds of people here, maybe approaching 1,000. There's a few hangers on right now, still hoping that maybe they'll catch a glimpse of the monarch. But right now, everything is taking place inside. So we know that Prime Minister Mark Carney, as well as the Governor General, each had their audiences with the King, audience just being the fancy word for meeting that you use when the monarch is involved. So the audiences with the King have taken place, and there are a number of other events that have or will be taking place as well, including the Queen being officially sworn in as a member of the King's Privy Council, and happening any minute now. We're told, and this was a new addition to the schedule, that the Indigenous leaders who are here will also have an audience with the King as well.
Okay, as you pointed out, Abigail, a monarch hasn't delivered the throne speech in this country since 1977. So this is a very rare occasion. That happens again tomorrow morning. Can you set that up for us?
Absolutely. So, if you thought you saw pomp and circumstance at the airport with that welcome party and those arrival shots today, there will be even more of that tomorrow, as we will see a horse-drawn carriage taking the king to the Senate, where he will deliver the speech from the throne. Members of the public can also line the streets to watch that take place. It will be heavy on the ceremony and the symbolism as this happens, and people will be listening to hear the king deliver that speech from the throne, which traditionally, of course, the throne speech will be basically what the Liberal government is focused on in the next parliament. That is the speech from the throne, hearing what the government will be laying out as its priorities. We have a good sense of a number of those from Mark Carney, from the campaign, from what he said since being elected prime minister. So the question will be how that gets delivered and how the king delivers that speech from the throne, and the content in there. Everybody will be listening very carefully.
Okay, live outside of Rideau Hall, CTV's Abigail Beeman. Thanks, Abigail. And Liberal MP Francis Scarpaleggia has been elected Speaker of the House of Commons.
Yeah, this is the only item of business for the House of Commons today. Speakers were required to act in a nonpartisan manner and only vote in the case of a tie. The election of a Liberal MP as Speaker takes a vote away from the governing party. The Liberals hold 170 seats, just too shy of the number needed for a majority government.
That process unfolded this morning. We watched the series of steps that it takes, including the 6 people who were vying. All Liberal MPs give their speeches, make their case to their colleagues as to why they wanted to be the next speaker. Then one by one, all the MPs filled out their ranked secret ballots. Those were tallied, and we got the results. Scarpaleggia quickly took the chair, thanking colleagues for their support. And then we heard, in a kind of notable historic moment, Prime Minister Mark Carney take his seat and speak in the House of Commons for the first time, congratulating Scarpaleggia for the role.
Mr. Speaker, I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason. Because this House has rules, it has traditions. And it's on those traditions that our Athenian democracy is founded.
Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke in the House of Commons for the first time today and congratulated Scarpaleggia. Carney was elected in the Ottawa area riding of Nepean. He had never held a seat in Parliament prior to his election earlier this year.
A warning now to viewers, the footage we're about to show you may be disturbing. An investigation is underway in England after a car drove into a crowd celebrating Liverpool's Premier League title.
Oh my God! What a
Footage posted to social media shows the driver of an SUV accelerating into a group of soccer fans on Water Street shortly after 6 p.m. local time. This happened as players and staff toured through the streets on an open-air bus, multiple buses. A 53-year-old man was arrested at the scene.
Time now is 5:19, 18 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Still no deal between Canada Post and the union representing 55,000 postal workers. We're going to have the latest on negotiations coming up. A judge has approved a $500 million settlement in the class action lawsuit that accuses Loblaw and its parent company of scheming to fix the price of bread.
For all the details and what it means for Canadian shoppers, let's bring in CP24's Lindsay Biscaya. This has been years in the making, Lindsay.
Yeah, it really has. And in terms of what it means for Canadian shoppers, Lena and Bakari, it means that some Canadian shoppers might actually be getting a little bit of money back sometime soon. Now, this settlement was reached last year, but as you mentioned, it was just approved by a judge today who called it fair and an excellent idea, this $500 million class action lawsuit settlement. Now, in terms of price fixing, what this basically means is that most competitors get together and decide on a price, which ultimately usually makes things more expensive for the consumer. And it's alleged that that's what happened here in terms of this bread price fixing. But we're talking about something between 2001 and 2021. So basically at this point, what that means is any Canadian who shopped at Loblaws, for example, and bought packaged bread between January 2001 and December 2021 can possibly get some money back. How you prove that maybe you bought a loaf of bread that was packaged back in like 2002? There's still a lot of questions to be answered. We put that question to our retail analyst, Bruce Winder, and he also said there's still a lot of questions to be answered. Take a listen.
When this thing first broke around 2015, Loblaw offered, I believe, $25 gift certificates or gift cards for people. So there's a lot of people who got those. And then there's a whole bunch of people in the millions who filed for a class action lawsuit with a legal firm. And this is really what the $500 million is about. So after legal fees, the remainder will be split, among the millions of people who filed for that.
Now, Bruce Winder also says his biggest question is what about the other parties involved in this alleged price-fixing scheme? Because obviously it takes at least two to tango, and Loblaw is really the only one and its parent company to really be named in this class action lawsuit. That name came out back in 2015. So again, still a lot of questions to be answered, but this settlement has now been reached, Lena and Bakari, which means quite a few Canadians will possibly be getting a little bit of cash, a little bit of extra cash sometime soon. Back to you.
All right, CP24's Lindsay Biscaya. Lindsay, thank you. Well, still no deal between Canada Post and the union representing 55,000 postal workers.
The two sides met yesterday, and talks are expected to resume over the next few days as the union imposes a national ban on overtime as its preferred strike action for now. The last offer Canada Post presented to the union last week included wage increases and plans to roll out a fleet of part-time workers to facilitate weekend parcel delivery.
It's now 5:25, 18 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, we'll take a look at a new series that follows the journey of a former Humboldt Bronco hockey player 7 years after the bus crash that killed 16 people and injured 13 others.
It's been 7 years since the Humboldt Broncos bus crash that killed 16 people and injured 13 others.
It's been 7 years since the Humboldt Broncos bus crash, where 16 people lost their lives and 13 were left injured. It's something that I think about every day.
Ryan Strejnitsky survived the crash and was left paralyzed. And a new documentary, We Were Broncos, takes a look at his shift to a new life and a new passion. He joined us on CP24 Breakfast to talk more about it.
It's a whirlwind. I'm just trying to find that next open door, right? I think one of my first goals after the accident was to get back onto the ice and play for Team Canada's sled hockey team at the Paralympics. And obviously that it didn't work out because now I had to find a new opportunity through wheelchair basketball. But I'm trying to keep that Paralympic dream alive and continue pushing forward. So it's been a roller coaster of emotions, and I've learned that patience is a virtue.
We Were Broncos debuts tonight on AMI TV and AMI Plus.
It is 5:28, 18 degrees. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
A royal welcome for King Charles III and Queen Camilla in Ottawa today, one day before the monarch delivers tomorrow's historic speech from the throne. We're going to hear from CTV's royal commentator, Afia Hagen, next. Toronto pledges more money to help festivals boost security. This in the wake of Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day attack last month. We're going to tell you more coming up.
King Charles III and Queen Camilla arrive in Ottawa for their royal tour and to underscore Canada's sovereignty in the midst of annexation threats. We'll take a look at what message this visit sends to the Trump administration.
The premier responds to growing opposition to a controversial proposed bill which aims to speed up large mining projects in the north. We're going to hear from critics and Doug Ford.
Plus, remember that Loblaw bread price-fixing scandal? A judge has now approved a $500 million settlement in the class action lawsuit. We'll tell you what this means for some Canadian shoppers.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Plenty of pomp and pageantry when King Charles III and Queen Camilla touched down in Ottawa today to begin their first visit to Canada since the King's coronation 2 years ago.
And tomorrow, the King will deliver the throne speech, something that hasn't been done in this country since 1977. For more on the significance of this visit, we're joined live tonight by CTV's royal commentator, Afia Hagen, who joins us live from London tonight. Afia, good to see you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, always good to be back with you guys.
The Royals have always maintained they're not political figures, yet we are in the midst of a very political situation, in the midst of this heated trade war with Donald Trump, the U.S., and they're really not shying away from defending Canada. Can you talk about the monarchy's role in this ongoing rift with the Trump administration?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the monarch is supposed to remain apolitical, but that's become almost impossible for King Charles III at this point. He's playing the part of diplomat-in-chief. He's really walking this a very fine diplomatic tightrope where he is balancing being the head of state, of course, for the United Kingdom and for Canada. We've seen him on the world stage with President Zelensky, talking to him about what's happening in Ukraine. We saw him extend that unprecedented invitation for a second state visit to President Donald Trump as well. He is juggling all these balls, playing the part of diplomat-in-chief, but he also has to assert himself on the global stage, right? Last year, he couldn't really do that because of his cancer diagnosis and recovering. This is his opportunity to do that, to reassert himself on the global stage whilst supporting Canada, reminding President Donald Trump and his administration that he is the head of state of a sovereign nation. And yes, he may want to get Donald Trump on side to make sure that the UK has favorable trade deals with the United States and to wield the power of soft diplomacy and how that can help. But he also, as the sovereign of Canada, has the job of standing up to the United States and standing up for Canada. And that's what we're going to see him do over the next, 24, 36 hours on this whirlwind trip.
And also, Afia, if I can get your take on this, Governor General Mary Simon greeting King Charles III wearing all white, the first Indigenous Governor General, and also the ceremony that was there when the plane touched down.
Yes, I mean, the delegation that met with King Charles III at the airport was full of lots of different people. You did mention the Indigenous communities. There are 3 separate communities represented. We also had that after he met with the Governor General, when we had we got the pictures of the top of the meeting a couple of hours ago, he also had 3 further engagements with Indigenous communities that weren't necessarily on the schedule already. This speaks to King Charles III listening to the calls for reconciliation with these communities, listening to what needs to be done to make those reconciliation claims come to the fore. He decided when he was going to be king that his coronation, especially in his monarchy, should be about diversity. And he's come into criticism, as has the royal family and the monarchy, for not championing diversity in the past. And so I think he is trying to listen and trying to act on that and really trying to enact with the Indigenous communities here in Canada, which I think is supremely important. I mean, Canada has a really unique makeup of all the Commonwealth nations. And if he is going to be the sovereign and deigns to reign over everybody in Canada, then he has to be able to bring all those communities into that. And I think that is what we are seeing.
And then tomorrow, it's going to be a really big moment, not only for this country, but for King Charles III when he delivers that throne speech, something that hasn't been done for decades, as you know well, Afia. And you talked about the king having to walk this diplomatic tightrope. We know that he's expected to defend Canada's sovereignty. He is expected to sort of send a message to the Trump administration. Is he limited in what he can and cannot say?
He is a bit limited. Now, we don't expect him to refer to Donald Trump by name or even maybe mention the United States at all. I think what we can expect is for him to talk about unity, to talk about the Commonwealth, to talk about the value of Canada being within the Commonwealth, talking about friendship. I think those are the kind of themes that we can expect to hear. Like I say, he's supposed to remain apolitical. At the moment, he can only afford to do that to a common stretch. It's not about him wading into politics, but it is about him, wielding his power as a sovereign, as well as using the power of soft diplomacy. So I think, yes, we can expect to hear those common themes within his speech. But I don't think we can expect him to actually refer to Donald Trump or his administration by name. But we know that the Trump administration, and especially Donald Trump, will be watching this very closely. We know that Donald Trump is a huge fan of King Charles. He was a huge fan of Queen Elizabeth II and the British royal family generally. You know, Melania and King Charles III are pen pals. Who knew? So I think they definitely will be watching this event and everything that's unfolding before us very, very closely.
Okay, CTV's royal commentator, Fia Hagen, staying up late to join us live from the UK. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sophia. Always good to get your perspective. It's now 5:37, 18 degrees. Let's check on the evening commute here at home with our traffic specialist, Adjoa and Siayabwa. Hey, Adj.
Hey, Lena. Yeah, I've been watching this problem that won't leave us happening on the 401 westbound. If your travels take you in the collector lanes right at Warden, it is a stall. So the stall itself is off to the side, but MTO crews, they're blocking that left lane. So if you're trying to get out of Scarborough, avoid the collectors. Use the express because quickly starting to create that delay now from before Kennedy. On to the Don Valley Parkway northbound. Heaviest from north of Bayview Bloor up to the 401, jammed on the Gardner as you make your way into and exit the downtown core. And quickly taking a look at your drive on the QEW. Heaviest now starting from Ford Drive in sections all the way out towards Brant. Again, typical rush hour delays on city streets. A couple of problems. Crews on scene of a collision on Bloor east of Dover Court. Also in North York, a collision on Finch right at Dufferin. I'll send it back to you both.
Okay, thanks, Adj.
You're welcome.
Mayor Olivia Chow says that the city will increase funding to enhance safety at festivals in Toronto.
Yeah, this comes after 11 people were killed in a vehicle ramming attack at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day Festival last month. And for all the details and for more on what's changing, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan in the Village. Steve.
Yeah, Lena, the Village is one of the many areas throughout the city that hosts large celebrations. Pride, of course, is an annual celebration, a festival, if you will, that takes place in the city. So there are multiple celebrations that take place throughout the year in the city of Toronto. And as you said, this tragedy that happened out west just this past month and a half in Vancouver certainly was cause for concern. So Councillor Cole told me today that as a result of what happened out west, he called together a large gathering of people at this conference today at the summit, and he wanted to.
Israel is an apartheid state.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw it back to you guys.
All right, Steve, we'll check back in with you when we can. Thanks so much for that. In other news, a teen boy is in hospital after being struck by a vehicle in Mississauga.
This happened in the parking lot of Our Lady of Mount Carmel School on Trelawney Circle. This is near Winston Churchill and Derry Road. A spokesperson for the school says the grade 9 student was hit while riding his bicycle. He was rushed to hospital and then airlifted to a trauma center with serious injuries. The driver did stay on the scene. It's not yet clear if any charges are pending.
A suspect sketch has been released in the assault of an elderly woman in Ajax.
OPP sharing this drawing in connection with the incident on the Salem Road ramp to the eastbound 401 in late April. So police say an 84-year-old woman was assaulted following a crash, leaving her with life-threatening injuries. The suspect is believed to be between 20 to 35 years old with long black hair and tattoos on his arms and chest. Police have also released 2 photos of a gray sedan that might have been involved. Anyone who recognizes the suspect in the sketch or the suspect vehicle, you're asked to contact police.
York police took more than a dozen guns and a large quantity of fentanyl off the streets in a months-long investigation dubbed Project Madruga.
The operation focused on a drug trafficking ring running out of Georgina. 6 people were arrested following a series of search warrants in York Region and in Toronto. Police seized 15 firearms, including 7 handguns, 4 shotguns, and 4 rifles. 2 of the weapons are prohibited. Investigators talked about the drugs recovered in the operation.
What started with information from the community became a 2-month investigation that dismantled a drug trafficking ring operating not only in Georgina, but in many areas of this province. And as you can see from the illegal drugs and firearms on display, this investigation has made our region safer, not only from the harms of opioids, methamphetamines, and other drugs, but also from the violent ways in which this criminal group was prepared to protect their control of this market.
The drug seizures included over 1,400 grams of raw fentanyl, 400 grams of cocaine, 70 grams of methamphetamines, 360 suspected opioid pills, over 260 grams of illicit cannabis, and over $7,000 in Canadian cash. The drugs are estimated to be approximately worth $215,000. There were 6 adults charged, 4 men, 2 women, and they're facing a total of 53 charges.
The accused are facing a combined 53 charges.
And the judge hearing the World Junior sexual assault trial has rejected prosecutors' final attempt to have a text message sent by a former teammate admitted as evidence.
In the text, an ex-player, Brett Howden, describes details of the night in question to another teammate, then teammate. Howden now says he can't recall the incident, but Michael McLeod, Alex Formenton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote are accused of sexually assaulting a then 20-year-old woman in McLeod's hotel room. McLeod is facing a second charge of being a party to the act.
Okay, let's go back live to CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan in the Village to find out more about increased security for festivals. Steve.
Yeah, so let's try that again. So Pride is one of the many festivals that takes place throughout the city, and it attracts thousands of people. So Councillor Cole called this summit that was held today, and he invited community stakeholders, experts when it comes to security, and people that had anything to do with making these festivals a success. And he did that because he wanted to come up with a proactive plan which mitigates the risk of any casualties, mass casualties taking place at any one of these gatherings. As Lena was saying earlier, the tragedy that happened out in Vancouver at the Taste of Manila really made the councillor aware of the risks that are presented anytime there are large gatherings here in the city. And, you know, we all know that we have several of them throughout the year. So this was called today as a proactive way of mitigating any of that from taking place during any of the festivities that happen throughout the city. Now, at this summit today was the mayor, and Councillor Cole as well spoke to the media. So here's more from the mayor and from Councillor Cole. Let's listen to both.
If you look at that room, it was packed. It was standing room only. What does that tell you? That is these organizers, these event organizers. Many of them are volunteers. They start organizing a year ago, and why do they do it? They do it because they love our city. They do it because some of them are from war-torn country. And they said, no. We came to Canada because we believe in peace, because we love harmony and the diversity of this city. And that's why they are working hard for these festivals.
The worst thing could happen is that people say, well, it's not safe, we're not going out, we're going to stay home. So then you basically give in to the terrorists, you give in to the people that are out to destroy communities. So we've got to continue to prepare, but be strong and be out there in the streets and celebrating this incredible city, this incredible multi-diverse culture we have here. We cannot stay home. We've still got to get out and celebrate our heritage, our music, our art, still be strong, but not forget the safety part of it.
Along those lines, as to what the councillor was talking about there, I did ask the mayor if she ever foresaw a time when the risk of any harm would outweigh the reward of continuing with any of these festivals and celebrations. And she said emphatically, absolutely not. Send it back to you.
All right, Steve Ryan reporting live for us tonight from the Village. Steve, thanks so much for this. It's 5:45, 18 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, we're going to take a look at the growing opposition to Bill 5 as the province defends the proposed legislation.
Opposition is growing to a Ford government bill aimed at fast-tracking large mining projects in the north. The premier says those against it are radical environmentalists.
CP24's Phil Perkins joins us live from Queen's Park with the latest on Bill 5. Phil.
Hey there, Bakar and Lena. I believe the actual quote from Premier Ford during question period was, quote, special interest left-wing crazies. And that is concerning Bill 5. And if passed, what it would do, the Ford government is hoping to speed up mining in Ontario's north. And what it would do basically is designate certain pieces of land as special economic zones. And with that, it would then push aside certain provincial municipal law. And one of the regions, something that Premier Ford has been talking about since he was elected as Premier years ago, is the Ring of Fire. You can only really get to it by plane, or if it's wintertime, you can drive on the ice. But there are many, many critical minerals there, including nickel, chromium, palladium, and platinum, used for certain things like electric vehicles, renewable energy and digital technology and microchips. And Premier Ford and Energy and Mining Minister Stephen Lecce says that this is the bill that will help them get up to speed with the rest of the world when it comes to this. But of course, there is some opposition. Sol Mamakwa, the critic for Indigenous and treaty relations with the NDP, had his say on this as well. Listen up.
We brought forth in the election a campaign commitment to accelerate responsible resource development because we are among the slowest nations on earth when it comes to mining. We are the 10th out of 10th to attract investment. We are the second slowest in the OECD, the industrialized world. Canadians, provincially and nationally, gave mandates to governments to move forward, but do it in partnership. And I do believe for Minister Rickford and I that we can continue to work in good faith with First Nation leaders to strengthen the bill, to get it right. We're open to making those improvements to the bill. We already have made some, but I think there's some more work to do.
That type of comment from a premier is a person that does not understand First Nations. And we've said before, you just have to work with us. And it's important that, we need to, again, follow that path towards working with First Nations, whether it's the rights holders, make sure that they are at the table, not the menu of this issue. So, and I think that's very clear.
So yes, we're getting First Nations opposition as well as political opposition as well, but we're also hearing from the CEO of the Toronto Zoo. They met with politicians last week at Queen's Park, and they talked about that if this bill were to go forward, several Ontario species will go extinct. And they said that if they are going to be going forward with Bill 5, they're going to have to give the Toronto Zoo specifically more money, more funding to try to create what they're calling a cell bank in order to preserve the species that they feel could be lost if the Ring of Fire and other spots in Northern Ontario are mined for these critical minerals. Back to you, too.
All right, strong comments from the Premier today. Phil Perkins live outside Queen's Park. Thanks, Phil. 5:51, 18 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, thousands of Via Rail workers could walk off the job next month during the busy summer travel season.
Welcome back. Still no deal between Canada Post and the union representing 55,000 postal workers.
Yeah, the two sides met yesterday. Talks are expected to resume over the next few days. This as the union imposes a national ban on overtime as its preferred strike action for now. The last offer Canada Post presented to the union last week included wage increases and plans to roll out a fleet of part-time workers to facilitate weekend parcel delivery.
And thousands of Via Rail workers could walk off the job next month. Unifor says its members voted almost 98% in favor of a strike mandate. The union represents more than 2,500 employees with the railway, including onboard service staff, maintenance crews, and customer service agents. The earliest a strike could happen is June 22nd, as the union is currently involved in a federal conciliation process that's set to end Saturday and will be followed by a 3-week cooling off period. Unifor claims Via Rail has failed to meet its wage demands and is pushing for major concessions.
Well, it's 5:55, 18 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Well, half of Canadian women say the health system does not meet their needs. We're going to take a closer look at the findings of a new report next.
A new report reveals more than half of Canadian women say that the healthcare system does not meet their needs.
The national survey conducted by Maple and Angus Reid found 62% of women have delayed or skipped care due to long wait times. 76% believe the system's not designed with their needs in mind, while 7 in 10 feel their health concerns are not taken seriously. 43% say they've experienced delays in receiving appropriate treatment, while a third report delayed or misdiagnoses.
Well, the man who admitted to stealing an iconic portrait from Ottawa, Chateau Laurier, was handed his punishment today.
Jeffrey Wood was sentenced to 2 years, less than a day in jail for the theft of his photograph of former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Police say it was stolen sometime between Christmas Day of 2021 and January 6th of 2022 and replaced with a fake. Wood pleaded guilty earlier this year. This was quite the story.
It's 5:59, 18 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thanks so much for joining us. CTV News at 6 is coming up next.